What's up, guys? We should be live now in this live stream. So if you guys jump into the live stream at any point and you guys do go ahead and chat, make sure you guys drop some comments down in the comment section below so that you guys can let me know that you are able to see this video. I'm going to go ahead and just hop over to my channel real quick to make sure it is live. So it is. Okay, so I can see that it's now up and running. So we're going to go ahead and hop into the video today. So as you guys can tell from the title, what would it take to fix the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise finale? So this one's going to be a little bit interesting today. I apologize if I mute my mic there a couple times throughout today's video. We are going to have some opportunities there where I'm probably going to be coughing. I am still kind of recovering from being sick, but doing my best to bring you guys all the best content here still. Hopefully you guys will hop in and watch this. But what I'm going to do here in today's video is we're going to essentially reset the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise to where they stand right now in real life. Now, we won 2 Super Bowls, which is highly unrealistic for the Steelers. Obviously, they didn't make it to the Super Bowl this year, which is a Super Bowl that we won in the franchise. We won the Super Bowl in the second year on a simulation. I didn't expect us to get that far in the second year, and so that kind of changed up my plans a little bit. I actually went through the offseason with that team, and I was like, you know what? I just don't really love where that stands with those players. I don't really love where that franchise stands. So what we're going to do is we're going to kind of combine 2 videos today just in a stream for you guys. And we're going to talk about what it would take to fix the Pittsburgh Steelers in real life from where they're at right now. And we're going to consider this the franchise finale so we can kind of compare and contrast, you know, what happened with our franchise versus what would a realistic thing be, you know, to happen with this Pittsburgh Steelers team over the offseason. Let me go ahead. I have a few things here that I need to get up and running. I want to make sure that I have YouTube up in the background, and I may just bring the stream up, honestly, so that I can see the comment section, because I had a thing earlier that did indeed show the stream, but it wasn't really working properly. There we go. So Graydon Finke, hi. Appreciate you tuning into this stream here today. So I'm going to go ahead now, and you guys are going to get to see everything live as we go through it, and this is going to be a little bit different than what we normally do on the channel, but I wanted to do something a little bit different, something that might be a little bit more entertaining for you guys. Just a couple words of warning. You may hear a slight buzzing noise, and that's probably my overhead light that's right above me right now. If you do hear that, let me know in the comments section. If not, don't worry about it. The other thing is you might hear my fish tanks back there in the background. Not really anything I can do about that, but I did just get a windscreen for my microphone. You guys can see here. So that is supposed to help dampen some of that noise, and I obviously don't have my settings in OBS set properly yet, but without further ado, let's go ahead and actually hop into our franchise mode here. So these are my 2 user franchises. I actually deleted the other Pittsburgh Steelers franchise just because I wasn't, like I said, loving where it was going. Or where it was at, rather. I was kind of happy with what we had achieved through simulation in that Super Bowl. So we're going to go ahead and create a new league here. We're going to use real-life rosters, and we're going to start at the most forward week possible. Now, what I'll say is you may need to bear with me here, because as I advance through weeks in franchises that are started this way, I've noticed that it has a tendency to disconnect me from the EA network. So hopefully all goes to plan here and it doesn't disconnect me from the EA network, but I can't guarantee that that's going to be the case. A lot of this stuff not really going to be important for us right now. I just need to make sure that we're set so we don't have tutorials and stuff up. So we should be good to go. All right, so we should be good now. Unlocked 100 staff points. We're not really going to worry about that right now. We are in Super Bowl week. And so we have the Los Angeles Rams versus the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm very curious as to what's going to happen between these Super Bowl contenders. and we got the Rams winning 28-24. I'd actually say that's probably a pretty realistic result right there. I think a lot of people expect the Rams to win. I'm not necessarily 100% on board with that. I like my LSU players, so I'm kind of looking forward to hopefully the Bengals can compete in that game. I know that that's a little bit weird coming from a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, but it kind of just is what it is. So let's go ahead and take a look at the roster right now and just get this going live. So at the quarterback position, Ben Roethlisberger didn't retire. So again, you're going to have to bear with me as I modify this roster as well. I'm not going to go too much into like modifications. I mainly just need to make it so that Big Ben isn't on the team anymore, so I'm just going to take down their value and things like that, so that we can address the roster properly without them on the team, and then we'll take them and move them to punter as well, just to make them easy to cut. So currently sitting with Mason Rudolph, Dwayne Haskins, and Joshua Dobbs. I don't think Joshua Dobbs was actually on the roster at the end of the year. Maybe he was a practice squad player. I could be wrong. I don't mind our running back room right now. There's nothing we have to do there. Derek Watt is still hanging around. We have our 3 receivers. I'm just checking to make sure that there isn't anybody that I have to remove from the roster right away. Kevin Rader here, the long snapper, I believe. Maybe a tight end. I feel like this is wrong. Zach Gentry being a 65. Eric Ebron still somehow being a 78. Eric Ebron is not good at football. He's not good at what he does. He's never on the field. I don't know how he maintains a 77 rating over Pat Freiermuth, who has been substantially better than him in any year of Eric Ebron's career. And Zach Gentry has even been better than him this year. Zach Gentry is a starter-level tight end, so I may adjust that as we move through. But you can just assume that as we go through this, Zach Gentry is going to be like a 70 to 73 or 74 overall tight end, because that's pretty realistic to what the value he brings to the team. And Eric Ebron is going to be lower than that. Not much I can do with him cutting him, though, because of his injury status. On the offensive line, looking pretty weak for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We all know what it is right now. I feel like Trey Turner actually played a little bit worse than a 78 overall. I don't know that he deserves to keep that rating. I think Zach Banner should be a little bit higher of an overall, but he does have his injury history. This is one that's going to be a little bit weird for us. So Stephon Tuitt is probably going to retire. I don't know if he's going to go play for another team or what's going to happen here, but I get the feeling, based on the weird situation that's going on with him, that he's not going to be playing football anymore. At least not in a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey. So our path forward here, it's going to have to include addressing the defensive line, because I see pretty much no path in which he remains a Pittsburgh Steeler or remains on the team, which leaves Chris Wormley here as kind of like the incumbent starter, who was pretty solid. Cameron Hayward probably sticks around. I kind of want to retire him, but I'm not going to mess around with that too much. I guess Tyson Alualu is also going to come back. He's a little bit injury prone. But we'll see if those players don't just automatically retire on their own. Linebackers looking about right. I still feel like Alex Highsmith probably a little bit underrated there. And at cornerback, this is where we're a little bit weak. So we have Joe Hayden, Cam Sutton, and Ahkello Witherspoon. Joe Hayden is going to be another one where I just simply don't see the Pittsburgh Steelers bringing him back. He's going to want too much money for an old player that just doesn't get the job done anymore. And so what I'm going to do is I'm also going to retire Joe Hayden, because he said he would retire before they move him to safety or anything like that. Maybe he can go out there and find a one-year contract for another team, but this very much to me screams a situation much like the Steelers have done in the past, where they almost just force a player into retirement. So that's where I think they stand on that end of things. They're going to need to address the secondary here, because it's not going to be good enough to just roll out these players that they currently have on the roster. At free safety, we all know Minka's very solid. I feel like some people question the way he played this year, but I disagree with that. I think he's played very well. I think Terrell Edmunds is one of the most underrated safeties in the league. I think that he deserves that 78, and if not more than that 78, so we'll be looking to keep him around. He does really well for the Steelers. 82 is pretty solid for Boswell. 71 might be a little underrated for Presley Harvin. I feel like people were questioning his punt average this year, but if you do any research at all on how to gauge punters, punt average is not the way to do it. And Presley Harvin, if you actually watched Steelers games, Presley Harvin is a fantastic punter. He's light years ahead of Jordan Berry and the other punters that we've had on the Pittsburgh Steelers for the last decade or two. So we need to keep Presley Harvin around, and we need to make sure that we have coaching staff in place to continue his development and make sure that he's a basically Steelers punter for life, because he's got a big leg and he knows how to be clutch when punting. I know that I talk a lot about punters here, and they don't mean that much to other people, but certainly, in my opinion, one of the more important things that the Steelers need to hang on to and continue to develop him as a player. So that's where our roster stands. Our roster is pretty weak, and so this is why I wanted to reset this and do a what would it take to fit the Pittsburgh Steelers video. There's just a lot that we have to do here in order to get this team to a competitive spot. There's just not a lot of talent on this roster, to be honest with you guys. So one thing that I think we will need to talk about is bringing back Juju Smith-Schuster or not. Personally speaking, I think the Steelers would be absolutely crazy to not bring back Juju Smith-Schuster. I feel that they're going to let him go test the market, and he's going to come back to Pittsburgh, and they're going to pay him what another team was offering him. I really don't feel like, with his injury history and things of that nature, any other team is going to give him a ton of money. He'll be, relatively inexpensive for the Steelers to get back, all things considered, and he's the only receiver on this team that has a good catching percentage, and he's the only receiver on this team that knows how to run block. So they have to keep him, and they have to utilize him as a slot wide receiver. That's the other thing that I feel like people don't understand is Juju Smith-Schuster is not a number one wide receiver. Everybody wants him to be a number one wide receiver. If you're on the outside looking in, if you're not a Steelers fan, you're like, well, Juju Smith-Schuster could go somewhere else and be a number one or a number two. He's just not going to be that guy. He's going to be a very, very effective slot wide receiver, very much a Hines Ward-esque player. If they let him go, they're wrong. They need to make sure that they hang on to this guy unless they have somebody in the draft that they're really going to target and thrust into a starting role right away. Ray McCloud certainly is not it. He's not good. James Washington could be the guy, but I don't know how much I trust that. So some interesting stuff going on there with the wide receiver crew. Let me check comments here real quick. Shout out to Willis O'Neill, waving hi. Evan Oslin, shout out to you. What's the weird situation? I must have missed something. You should be able to drop back into the stream. I can't remember exactly what I was talking about. Oh yeah, To It. So To It. Okay, and James Ramos' first season. Yeah, so I played 2 seasons just to catch you guys up if you had not watched the previous videos. We won the Super Bowl in both. We won the Super Bowl in the first year just by progressing the team really well and actually playing the Super Bowl. The second year, we got to the playoffs, and I basically simulated through playoffs, and then I live simmed the Super Bowl, and we somehow won the Super Bowl. I really did not expect that to happen, but that's where we were. To answer your question about To It had a injury that he was supposed to come back from like mid-season. And I don't quote me on all of this information because I don't have it right in front of me. But Stephon Tuitt was supposed to come back roughly mid-season or late into the season, and everybody kept asking for an update. Where's Stephon Tuitt? Where's Stephon Tuitt? Okay, you're in the playoffs now. Is he going to come back and help this team compete in the playoffs? Where's Stephon Tuitt? Where's Stephon Tuitt? And the coaching staff repeatedly said, we don't have a comment. We don't have an answer. We'll let you guys know as soon as we know. So as far as I understand, there's not a lot of communication going on there between the two. I think that he was dealing with a death in the family, which certainly could be affecting mental health, and we have to take that seriously and everything like that. But there was not the communication. I can't confirm that this is the truth, but I heard that he sold his house in Pittsburgh, so it's very likely that he's either moving closer to home or maybe he's just not going to be with the Pittsburgh Steelers anymore. So I'm going to move forward with the understanding that we have to address that position no matter what. So in my opinion, that's kind of what you have to do if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. And to be honest with you, to be 100% honest with you, the Pittsburgh Steelers have had trouble on their defensive line for how long now? Cam Hayward or Stephon Tuitt gets injured every year. I mean, they both do. There's been years where they were both out at the same time, and it kills the Steelers because they haven't developed the depth behind those guys to take over. You're talking about a 30-year-old Stephon Tuitt, a 32 or 33-year-old Cam Hayward. You have to develop guys to take over. You have to develop depth guys, and they really haven't done a great job of that. I think that one of the Pittsburgh Steelers' top priorities that a lot of people aren't going to talk about is bringing in defensive linemen that can play ball for this team, that can shed blocks and get into the backfield. And yeah, absolutely, Evan. Appreciate you bringing up the question. And shout out to Zaid Fariz. I was literally reading that backwards. Willis O'Neill, shout out to you as well for being in the chat. Number one wide receiver in the draft or veteran in free agency. Okay, I have some ideas of where to go with this team. Let's go ahead and get this moving so that we can get some progress done here. So first things first, we are in staff week. What do the Pittsburgh Steelers need to do with their staff? Now, there's not much that I can do here to simulate real life. I'm going to be honest with you. I really feel like the Pittsburgh Steelers need to make some staffing changes. They're not going to. We know that Mike Tomlin is probably safe there. He has a extremely effective record in the regular season, and that's great. I really appreciate that as a Pittsburgh Steelers fan. There's just things that I need him to clean up as a coach, personally speaking. But, we're not there. So Mike Tomlin's going to stay. The offensive coordinator is going to be staying, from what I hear, to see if he can't use a more mobile quarterback or something of that nature, or a younger quarterback. That's fine. I didn't like the way that Matt Canada ran the offense, but when you have a franchise quarterback back there, you can't take the ball out of his hands. But at the same time, you have to realize that you can't throw the ball 50 times a game with a guy that's on a broken arm, or essentially what's a broken arm. So it was never going to work to begin with that combination. So I don't mind bringing Matt Canada back, but he's, in my opinion, on a 1-year deal. Essentially, he proves himself or he doesn't prove himself. You bring in somebody that can focus on the run game and get you a game manager at quarterback, run the ball down teams' throats, develop this team like a Tennessee Titans team. I'd be fine with that. Strong defense, and that's one of the issues, is that their defensive coordinator is stepping down. So at least I think, if I'm not mistaken, let me go ahead and actually look that up real quick just to make sure. Yeah, okay, so they actually did name a replacement, and this was a couple days ago, so I must have missed this. So Terrell Austin was named the defensive coordinator to replace Keith Butler. There's nothing I can do here to simulate that within the franchise, but certainly they needed a minor change there on the defensive line, on the defense in general, because Keith Butler was stepping down or retiring or whatever he's officially doing. So I'm not going to do anything here with staff changes, not really anything that I can do right this moment. So what we're going to do, I'm going to put this question out there for you guys right now. Should I try to bring in a realistic draft class for this process? I think I probably should. Or do you guys want me to just try to do it off of a random draft class? I think I have a pretty good realistic draft class saved. It's certainly not going to let me access the Madden share. I've been trying to, literally every day, I try to get you guys that offensive playbook that I designed, and I can't get it. I literally can't access the share file system for some reason. I think that full 450 man. I think it's SGR. I think this is the one that I've been going with. Yeah, Kyle Hamilton up at the top, Kayvon Thibodeau, Aiden Hutchinson. I have to look at the quarterbacks to know. Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Sam Howell, Carson Strong, Kenny Pickett down here. I feel like that's maybe a little bit unrealistic. Let me see real quick if I can get into the share file system and find an updated realistic draft class. And I apologize if I keep looking off to the side. It's just because that's where my main screen is at for the game. So I have to, because I'm partially blocking stuff with my face cam sometimes. So let's go ahead. Scout college players. I apologize if I stumble too. I cut a lot of this stuff out of my videos. Prospects, edit players, download from Madden share. Let's see if it gives me the issue where it doesn't want to connect. Otherwise, we'll have to. Oh, here we go. Okay, so a lot of downloads, a lot of likes. This looks like the most one. Very accurate draft class, realistic ratings, and accurate appearance and gear. When was it updated? 8/25/21. Oh, I should not have sorted by date. That's not going to be good. Realistic draft class, all 7 rounds. Post Senior Bowl, risers, fallers, updated 2/9. Yes, I think that was the one that was on the first page that was the most updated. So let's go ahead and just take a look at this one real quick, I should say. Hopefully it's semi-accurate. All right, prospects. Take a look. So Evan Neal up at the top, Aiden Hutchin, Kayvon Thibodeau, Ekwomu. All right, let's take a look at quarterbacks. They do have Kenny Pickett at the top, which I feel like is probably realistic. You might be able to see Malik Willis go up there at the top. Doesn't matter to me. That looks pretty realistic. What do you guys think down in the chat? I don't know how. I apologize if this isn't the most smooth stream you guys have ever watched. I'm getting used to this. But nonetheless, I apologize if I stutter and things. This is my first time doing a stream in a while or anything like that. And for those of you that are in now, I apologize if I either mute my mic, I turn my head to cough, or I cough accidentally and things like that. I am still getting over a sickness, so I want to make sure everybody's aware that could happen during this stream. I think that draft class honestly looks pretty realistic. Yeah, so Evan says looks good. Let's go ahead. We'll roll with it. Looks fine to me. All right. So we're moving on to the re-sign players page. This is where things may get interesting. Players ready to negotiate. Juju Smith-Schuster, Trey Turner, Terrell Edmonds, Eric Ebron, Akello Witherspoon, James Washington. There's a lot of players here. All right, let's go ahead and get the job done. So first and foremost, Terrell Edmonds, give him whatever he wants. I don't care. He has to come back to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's way too valuable of a player not to come back. Give him the money that he desires. Good, he's excited to come back. Eric Ebron. You can go to free agency. They've proved that they have 2 tight ends in Pat Freiermuth and Zach Gentry that are prepped and ready to take his spot. Akello Witherspoon, that's not that bad, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer you a 1-year deal. And if you don't want to take it, you don't want to take it. Yep, free agency for him. No surprise there. James Washington to free agency. Ray McLeod, if I'm being honest, probably comes back to the team. I am not bringing him back. Personally, that's just personal preference. I just don't see him having a valuable role with this team moving forward. If they do move on from Juju Smith-Schuster, which a lot of people are saying is likely, Ray McLeod, Mike Tomlin, that's a Mike Tomlin guy. He may try to stick him into that role as the 3rd wide receiver. It's not going to work out if they decide to do that. I don't believe that's going to work out, and they'll probably end up turning to somebody else. Kalen Ballage coming back as running back. Absolutely. At the end of the season last year, he proved, in my opinion, why they brought him in. When you talk about Kalen Ballage, you talk about a player that is a huge, very similar player to Najee Harris, 6'2", 231 pounds, athletic, and able to run a guy over and lay a stiff arm. So they have to get him involved in the offense more. I think that you bring him back. Taco Charlton looked pretty solid for the Steelers. We're a little weak on outside linebacker / D-line depth, whatever you want to call him in their system. You bring him back on a relatively cheap deal to fill the void. All right, so I think that's most of the important ones out of the way here. John LeGlue, I'm not gonna go crazy Excuse me for that. I'm not going to go crazy with any of these low-end players. We'll just, honestly, I'm not even going to waste my time renegotiating with them. Dwayne Haskins will come back on a cheap deal to compete for a starting job. I see no situation where he would be better off than returning to the Steelers competing for a starting job. Arthur Mollett looked somewhat decent when he was on the field at certain times. I'm willing to move on from DeMarcus Christmas. Marcus Allen, Henry Mondo has been solid for the Steelers. I don't like paying him that much. We can probably get him in post-free agency whenever we go to preseason. Miles Killebrew, Montavious Adams. I don't see anybody here that I necessarily need to get a deal done with. I think Robert Spillane probably goes to another team and gets a half-decent contract to be a fill-in linebacker. Chukwuma Okorafor, I'm like kind of up in the air on him because I really do feel like he has some room to develop. But I don't know. I'd rather... Yeah, you know what? Let me see what this price is. So we're looking at, $3.5, almost $4 million. I don't love it. I'm going to be honest. Go to free agency. We'll see if there's something else available, or maybe we'll try to get you back for cheap. Kelly Witherspoon walked. Now, the last two to talk about are Trey Turner and Juju Smith-Schuster. Trey Turner, I don't think you bring him back for this much money. I think that you let him walk. I think that you let him test the market, and you try to get him in free agency. Same thing with Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm going to try to play it realistic. So I could sign him right now, which I feel like the Steelers are going to bring him back, but we're going to do it realistically. We're going to let him walk. We're going to let him test free agency. We're going to see what other teams are offering him before we make a decision on whether he's worth that value to bring back to the team or not. So that's where we stand with all the free agents and everything of that nature. So we'll go ahead and advance unless anybody has any objections in the comments section. We'll go ahead and advance to the next week. Not really a whole lot going on at that stage. So, yeah, and it looks like, comment section wise, not too much going on right now. Let's go ahead and advance to the next week. And I'm hoping there are certain players out here available for us to target. Because there's a couple of guys that I really think that we should go after. Colin Kaepernick shouldn't be there. Teddy Bridgewater is there. Here we go. Here is my number one quarterback option, tied with another guy that is out here. Yep. Okay. And for the sake of argument here, I'm going to attempt to bring in both of these players. I think this is too much. I honestly think that this is too much money to pay either one of these guys. But this is what the Pittsburgh Steelers need to do, in my opinion. So you know what? Because Mariota is looking for that much money, we're just going to let the system make the decision for us. Mitchell Trubisky is a quarterback that I feel still has a ton of upside. I feel like all of his opportunity was wasted by the staff in Chicago. I feel like that's the biggest issue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give him like what, $1 million, 1 year, $6 million, something like that. I mean, that might be a little bit much, to be honest. I think you'd be able to get him for cheaper in real life. Oh yeah. That's way too much. That was like a 133-point offer. Let's go with this is why they need to sign a guy. Because you can absolutely, and I know that this is in Madden, but you can absolutely go out and get a Marcus Mariota or a Mitchell Trubisky who, in my opinion, neither of them ever got a fair shake. They both have shown flashes of very, very high upside. They were mismanaged by their organizations. I feel like with the Pittsburgh Steelers looking to bring in a quarterback that has athleticism, Mitchell Trubisky or Marcus Mariota are the answer. The answer for me at quarterback also has to be an inexpensive option. So that means not going out and paying a really high-end superstar quarterback, not trading for an Aaron Rodgers or a Russell Wilson. It's bringing in a guy like this that's going to come in on a couple $1 million deal and compete for the starting job regardless of whether you draft a quarterback or not. And so Mitchell Trubisky or Marcus Mariota are the answer for me, partially because they're going to compete for the job. Now, that's not to say I'm not drafting a quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but you have to bring in a guy like this who at the very least can add something to your quarterback room. He's been there, he's done that, he's had some success and also had a lot of failure for both of these guys, and they can help a young quarterback learn within this league. I think that that's absolutely crucial for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to go with the 1-year offer on Mitchell Trubisky. Cheap option, like I said, inexpensive. The reason I say inexpensive, if I didn't detail this already, I don't think I did, is because you're getting all that money back from Ben Roethlisberger retiring, from other players leaving the team. You have to use that money to fix the holes in the team elsewhere. All right, so that means in the draft, you're not trading up to get a quarterback because that's going to make that quarterback more expensive to you. You have to leverage a cheap, young starting quarterback or a veteran, cheap starting quarterback from free agency, or the quarterbacks that are already on your team in Mason Rudolph and Dwayne Haskins, who are, again, cheap options at quarterback. So that's what we're going to do. I feel very comfortable with what we have going on at running back. I would love to see Leonard Fournette in a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey, but I see no reason that we should add really anybody here on this list. I mean, if James Conner is out there and doesn't get a contract off of somebody else, I would love to see him come back to Pittsburgh and split some reps, but I don't see something like that happening. A lot of these running backs are probably going to find jobs on pretty decent amounts of money. I think the Steelers are deep here. We don't need a fullback. We do need a slot wide receiver, so let's actually check to see what is going on out here for this team, because Chase Claypool's going to play on the outside. Deontay Johnson, too good of a route runner not to play him on the outside, so you got to kind of look and see what's available at slot wide receiver. The offers that are going out for Juju Smith-Schuster right now, if I offered him, are around, what is that, $8-9 million per year. So the argument is, or the question is, and I'll let you guys drop in the comment section below what you think about the wide receiver situation. Is Juju Smith-Schuster worth to the Pittsburgh Steelers $9 to $10 million a year? Looking at comments here, what kind of system on offense are you doing? Brissett over Trubisky, he's a scheme fit. So let me go ahead and actually go back and look at Brissett, because you might be right. Brissett is a very similar player, and if he's out here, Jacoby Brissett would be a fantastic option, to be honest with you. So let me go ahead and look at quarterback. Let me know your thoughts. Yeah, so Brissett, he's a scheme fit. I actually didn't detail the scheme yet on what I'm planning to run, but let me go ahead and do that now before I get too deep into free agency, because I think you guys are right. I think you guys are right that we need to adjust our team scheme to be effective here. So on offense, it's going to be a little bit of, say, a vertical zone run type of a scheme. And actually, I don't think that is what I want to look for. I would go with more of a multiple zone run. The Steelers are pretty solid at running zone running schemes. Their offensive line are tailored to do that. So, I mean, realistically speaking, Madden doesn't do a perfect job of detailing what types of schemes you're going to run on offense. My requirement here is that the Pittsburgh Steelers need to lean on their running game. They need to be a bruising football team. They need to run Najee Harris, and they need their quarterback to not throw the ball 50 times a game. I would say the target is 25 rushes a game roughly for Najee Harris and company, so 25 to 30 rushes for Najee and his whoever's splitting reps with him. And then at quarterback, you're looking for somewhere in that 30 times passing the game range, if not lower than that. I'm not looking for a quarterback that's going to come in here and sling it all over the field. Now, don't get me wrong. If a quarterback comes in and proves that they can do that, great. That makes the Steelers a contender. But nonetheless, the strength of your team is the running game, and you have to effectively be able to run the football here in Pittsburgh as we move forward. So that's where I stand with where they need to go with it. So back to free agents, I do agree with you on Brissett over Trubisky. I think that either one of these guys would be fine. My only problem is here in Madden, Brissett is going to ask for $5 million over 3 years. Trubisky is going to be significantly cheaper here. So that would be my take on it in real life as well, is get the one that you can get for the cheapest. The guy that's going to compete for a starting job, has some athleticism, and can game manage a football game. Doesn't have to throw the ball 50 times a game. So that's where I'm at with that. At slot wide receiver, let me check the comments to see what you guys think. Is he worth... where's Hines Ward when you need him? I agree. Is Juju Smith-Schuster worth to the Pittsburgh Steelers $9 to $10 million a year? I'll come back to that argument. I'll look at who else is available out here. DJ Chark would be a fantastic option. I don't see him hitting free agency. Maybe he's going to. He's going to demand a lot of money if he hits free agency, to be honest with you, probably more than Juju. I don't love any of these. Somehow Henry Ruggs is still out here. Why do they not remove these guys from the game? That's interesting. You could see a Sammy Watkins come in and contribute. There are some other options out here. Truthfully, we could go with a handful of different guys. I don't see anyone that is particularly sticking out to me at the moment, so I'm just going to move on and let you guys drop your comments, and we'll move on to the various other positions that are available here. So here's where we get interesting with the offensive line and who's going to be available in free agency, because there's probably going to be some pretty solid players available in free agency at the offensive line positions, which the Pittsburgh Steelers have shown that they obviously need. No way Juju's worth that. Sign Chark. I agree. The Pittsburgh Steelers need to bolster their offensive line. So the interesting thing is, where do we go with the offensive line? Do we go draft? Do we go free agency? And some of those guys that are sitting there like Armstead are definitely going to be available in free agency because of their teams not having enough salary cap to bring them back. Well, I'm comfortable with Kevin Dotson at left guard. I feel like he has a ton of upside. I'm fine with Kendrick Green at center or guard. We need at least one more interior offensive lineman. That's clear. And in my opinion, we need 2 offensive tackles. I would say the most realistic way to go here is sign one veteran offensive tackle and draft an offensive tackle. And Dan Moore Jr. would probably plug and play at one of the tackle spots that the veteran is not at, maybe combining with Zach Banner or Joe Haig, whatever, while a rookie develops. At guard, however, I think that the more realistic option may be to go with a veteran player, because that's what they did with Trey Turner. They may bring Trey Turner back, for all we know. It might be wise to bring him back. So let me go ahead and take a look at who is out here at offensive line. Teron Armstead, probably going to be too much money for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So $40 million over 2 years, that's 20 and 20. Not loving that option. Trent Brown is going to be $64 million. That's $15 million per year. Again, probably going to be too much money. However, there are some very effective veteran offensive linemen that I wouldn't mind them bringing into the team. So let's go ahead and look and see what's available across the league. I feel like there are some underrated linemen right here. I like Kaleki Osemele a ton. And I also like, over here at right guard, some of the players that are available. Brian Winters. Brian Winters is a wily old veteran. He's very solid across the board, run blocking, I feel like, and decent at pass blocking. Osemele is not a scheme fit. Let's go ahead with Brian Winters and see if we can't bring him in on a relatively inexpensive contract. Now let's go ahead and look at offensive tackle and see who I really want. Mitchell Schwartz, Morgan Moses. Right tackles are going to be less expensive. Might make sense to draft a left tackle for that very reason. The Steelers need a true left tackle, in my opinion. They need somebody that is going to be a long-term anchor, and they're not going to get that in free agency. They've been trying for too long to plug and play on the offensive line. They've been doing too much of that. So I really like going right tackle here and drafting a left tackle. I think Chark's a good option. Draft or free agency, both. Yep, I agree. Totally agree. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Right tackle, who is available that can play for us? let's go with Morgan Moses. Morgan Moses is a player that has had some success. I feel like he could come over to the Pittsburgh Steelers, compete for that right tackle job, and have success there. So we're going to go with Morgan Moses at right tackle, Brian Winters at right guard, and we're not really going to compete too much for offers on other players. And I'm going to go back to wide receiver. Insert any third wide receiver that would be a reasonable price for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, heck, Antonio Brown's still out here. I wouldn't mind seeing a reunion with him. I just don't think they would do that in a million years. Let's go ahead and give DJ Chark, what is that, $6 million a year? I'll take that. $6 million a year for a burner, 6'4", has the height, has the potential. It probably won't be DJ Chark in reality, especially, with... I really feel like DJ Chark in real life is worth more than Juju Smith-Schuster, but I could be wrong. I don't know why the game rates them that way. But so we're going to go with DJ Chark because, like you guys said, $9 to $10 million, too much for Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't think he's going to get that much in real life, but hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he will. So that's going to fill out our offensive bids. Let's go ahead and recap those real quick so you can see all of them. So DJ Chark, Brian Winters, Morgan Moses, and Mitchell Trubisky. Again, insert Marcus Mariota or Jacoby Brissett or other athletic veteran quarterback that can come in for a reasonable price. Totally okay with that. I'm totally okay with these offensive negotiations. Now, this is where, now don't get me wrong, one thing to recap on offense, if they want to go all in on a Trent Brown or a Teron Armstead, they have my seal of approval to do that. I just don't see them doing that with the amount of money that they have on their salary cap space. It says we have like $60 to $80 million in cap. I think they have like 47 in real life. So, that could be because we removed Stephon Tuitt from the equation. But nonetheless, I think that it's going to be a little bit more of a priority to go with valuable. What's the word I'm looking for? Bargain finds, guys that can contribute to your team that aren't going to be that expensive. And so now we need to look at the defensive line. So real quick, I'm going to go back to the roster and take a look. And this is, just so you guys know, because this is going to be a somewhat long stream. So Tyrell Crosby develops well. I agree. That could be a good pickup for the Steelers. This, because this is probably going to be a long stream, I just want you guys to know this is what goes into making all of these franchise videos. This is what goes into making my what would it take to fix this team videos. There's a lot of recording and cutting that goes on with this stuff. I actually like Chris Wormley at left end. I like Isaiah Loudermilk. I think that he actually has some solid potential. Cam Hayward is still hanging around for us, but we need to probably draft a replacement for him for the future, and we need a defensive tackle. So in my opinion, this is where our first trade needs to happen if the players that we want are not available on defensive line, and I don't know that they are going to be. Harrison Phillips is a defensive tackle that is going to be hitting free agency, and this is a defensive tackle that I very much feel the Pittsburgh Steelers should make a move to bring into the team. So we're going to go and see what it would take to get him. Now, they probably re-signed him, but he is, from what I understand, almost certainly going to be in free agency. I could be wrong. Let's go ahead. They need right tackle, left outside linebacker, strong safety, free safety, right end. I don't know that we're going to have anything to be able to get him. Maybe give him a draft pick. Because he's supposed to be in free agency, yeah, let me do this. Because he's supposed to be in free agency, we will move him to punter, we'll trade for him, and then we'll give him the appropriate contract. Because he should be in free agency from my understanding. Actually, let me go ahead and look it up just so that I don't do something crazy. Make sure I'm looking at the right guy. Harrison Phillips. Contract. I don't know. Maybe he did get an extension. Yeah, he did. No, he didn't. No, he's a free agency this offseason. Perfect. So, Can I save the stream? It should just post to my channel for afterwards. It should just be saved to the channel when this is wrapped up. All right, so Harrison Phillips going to defensive tackle, or going to punter rather, and then back to defensive tackle once we trade for him and give him a proper contract. So just so you know that I'm not trying to do something funky here and screw over the CPU. I'm only trading for him because he should be in free agency, and we're going to give him a contract to compensate what we would have paid for him. Are these guys brothers? Carlos, little voice crack there. Are these guys brothers? Carlos Davis and Khalil Davis? Let's trade Christian Miller. That should be enough to get him. Yep. All right, so now we go to punter for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And we move him to D-tackle. And we got to give him a good number. B-tackle. 99 was what he was wearing. Perfect. Contract. What do you pay a defensive lineman that has been underused and has not produced for the team that he was on because he has not been utilized properly? I say we give him a 3-year deal at maybe $3 million per year. Guarantee him, we'll go with a little bit more. About $3 million per year, a little bit over that over the life of the contract. Guarantee him about $4 million. And I can guarantee you that if the Pittsburgh Steelers were to get him and utilize him properly as an interior defensive lineman, he would be a monster for their defense. Harrison Phillips has shown flashes of greatness. I really feel like he's going to be a very, very good defensive lineman on a team that he falls to in free agency. Will the Pittsburgh Steelers go out and get him? I don't know. He's, to me, a prototypical Pittsburgh Steelers defensive lineman. That solves their defensive tackle issue. We're going to address right end in the draft, probably left end as well. But let's go ahead and look at free agents real quick and just make sure that there isn't anybody out here that would make sense for us to bring in to help address these needs. Now, I don't feel like we would want to bring in an Akeem Hicks or somebody like that that's going to be a 1-year plug-and-play unless TJ Watt was out here. That's going to be next year. The Pittsburgh Steelers are probably going to sign TJ Watt, if I have to be 100% honest with you. I see him coming over to the Pittsburgh Steelers at that point. Fatukasi is going to get too much money from any team that wants to sign him. Brandon Williams is a true nose tackle. The Pittsburgh Steelers could use him, but doesn't really fit what they've been trying to do. I know Harrison Phillips is a bit of a nose tackle type of a player, but he does have the athleticism to move around, whereas he's not just constantly going to be playing nose tackle. Randy Gregory's out here, Calais Campbell, Frank Clark. Not loving any of these options. Carl Nassib. There's a lot of traditional 4-3 defensive ends. There's not going to be a ton of 3-4 DNs available for us. We need depth at 3-4 outside linebacker, but we're probably not going to find that here. I think Frankie Luvu actually does have some of that skill set. I am surprised to see these middle linebackers out here. One thing I'll say, the Pittsburgh Steelers need help at the middle linebacker spot. Chances are good, and I didn't do this yet, chances are good they cut Joe Schobert for the salary cap. So let me go ahead and cut Joe Schobert. They've been known to go after linebackers, middle linebackers in free agency. They've done it before. They tried to get Hightower off of the Patriots. Hightower went back after they made their offer to him. They got more money off he got more money off the Patriots than off the Steelers. Or maybe it was slightly less or something like that. The Pittsburgh Steelers need somebody else to help Devin Bush. Devin Bush, I think, still has a ton of upside. I think people are overreacting on his performance. He's still only 24 years old. He's coming off of an injury. He's going to be a fantastic player for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The only problem is if you march out there with a bunch of undersized linebackers, you're not going to find success. Buddy Johnson, Devin Bush, not going to cut it. The Pittsburgh Steelers go after, since they're addressing so many other positions in the draft, they go after a free agent linebacker. I see this as a very realistic option for the Pittsburgh Steelers and something that people are probably not going to see coming. So we are going after Rashaan Evans, and we are going to pay him pretty handsomely because, again, like I said, when you're leaning on the run game, when you have a young quarterback, and when you're willing to pay linebackers, which they've proven in the past, you'll go out there and spend a good chunk of change to make sure your defense is locked up in the middle. So we're going to go out here and we're going to pay Rashaan Evans quite a bit of money to captain our defense. Rashaan Evans now within our grasp. I'm going to go ahead and increase that even further. I honestly don't care what this price tag is. They probably should do this if Rashaan Evans is here in real life. I think that would be a huge pickup for them. They could bring in a veteran like a Dante Hightower, who they have expressed interest in the past. They have Leighton Vander Esch here. I just made a mistake. So if Leighton Vander Esch makes it here, Leighton Vander Esch is 100% the signing because they wanted Leighton Vander Esch bad during the draft. They wanted this man so bad. Whenever he was coming out of college. Leighton Vander Esch 100% will be a Pittsburgh Steeler if he drops to free agency. I could see that happening any day of the week. There are other options out here. We're not going to sign multiple, but I could see a Jayon Brown, a Leighton Vander Esch, Rashaan Evans, whoever's available here. Seems to be a lot of middle linebackers. They're going to pick up one to go next to Devin Bush, who has a little bit of a run-stopping capability. Vander Esch is bigger at 256 pounds, 6'4". Rashaan Evans is a little bit smaller at 6'2", 232. So I think Vander Esch actually hits everything that we were looking for in a linebacker, and he's a scheme fit. So I'm glad that I took a second look there and found him. The Pittsburgh Steelers, not known to go out and sign cornerbacks. What I will say is, if there is the proper veteran player out here that is solid in coverage, I could see them making a move to get him. It would have to be somebody probably physical, somebody that has good zone coverage, which I don't know for sure any of these players have. Kyle Fuller is out here. He's a veteran. Chris Harris, Trey Wayne, Steven Nelson. The Steelers don't immediately pay cornerbacks. So I think the most realistic option for us here at cornerback is to go ahead and skip week 1 and see what is left over for us in week 2. And when week 2 rolls around, that is when we go in on a cornerback for a little bit of a less expensive price. At safety, I don't see us needing to do a lot. I can't believe that these guys are all out here. I would love to see the Steelers pick one of these guys up. They just simply don't need them, though. Jabril, oh my goodness, how are all of these guys out here in free agency? If Jabril Peppers is a free agent and he somehow isn't a Pittsburgh Steeler, I might renounce my fanship of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Jabril Peppers is one of my favorite players in the NFL. He is such a menace. I love Jabril Peppers. I'm not going to sign him for the sake of realism here, but man, would he look good in a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey. I really wanted him back whenever he got traded. But the Pittsburgh Steelers weren't going to give up the money to get him. I'm kind of thinking about a way I could justify bringing in Jabril Peppers. Jabril Peppers is a player that can play all over the field. In case you don't know about Jabril Peppers, he's played running back, he's played receiver, he's played linebacker, he's played pass rusher, he's played safety, he's played corner. He'll play anything you ask him to play. And I'm going to be honest with you, that's a Mike Tomlin type of a player. I'm going to leave that decision up to you guys. I'm going to wait here a minute before I decide to sign a Jabril Peppers. He's also solid in coverage. But I really want to put a bid on him. I just don't see them sign Jordan Whitehead, bring him back to Pitt. I do like that. Do you guys, yay or nay on Jabril Peppers? Let me know right now. Yes or no on Jabril Peppers in the chat. While you do that, let me go ahead and look at Whitehead. Sign Jabril, move him to linebacker. Yes. Somebody's with me. Jordan Whitehead would be a solid add back to Pittsburgh. I don't know why, but the Steelers don't like to bring Pitt players back to Pittsburgh. It's weird to me. They just don't do it that often. So $5 million for Whitehead. Sign him, trade Edmonds. I could see that. I could maybe see that. That much money for a safety. Sign Peppers. You guys are saying to sign him. I'd rather have a plethora of players and have to make a decision later on than not have enough players. So let's do it. Let's sign Peppers. We're going to go for Peppers. We're going to increase the offer just because he wants a lot here. 94 total points. I'm trying to get it to 95. 95 kind of seems to be the sweet spot on players like auto-accepting and not having to go to the next week. All right. So our negotiations on defense. Jabril Peppers, safety. Leighton Vander Esch, middle linebacker. And that's it. And also Harrison Phillips, defensive tackle. Technically a free agent signing for us is the way that I'm rolling with it. The other thing about Jabril, the other thing about him is, like I said, he's flexible. He can play just about anywhere you want him to. So maybe they decide to play him at slot corner. Maybe they decide to play him at the outside on corner. I actually like this idea a lot. This is a flexible player that can play anywhere you want him to play. The Pittsburgh Steelers need that on defense, and he's super athletic. He's willing to get his nose dirty too. He's going to come in. He's going to tackle. He's going to hit people. I like it. That's going to be our wave one of free agency. Hopefully we actually get these guys. Let's go ahead and advance. We're going to ignore the combine results and stuff like that until we actually get to the draft. I just don't see too much value in wasting time on it right now. All right, so real quick, so that you guys can actually see who accepted. We got everybody. So we got our veteran right tackle in Moses. We got our safety/utility player on defense in Jabril Peppers. We got our veteran right guard in Brian Winters. We got our insert whatever wide receiver the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to utilize. Maybe they don't sign a wide receiver, whatever. We decided to go with DJ Chark. Maybe a little unrealistic, whatever. I like it. Bring in a third receiver. Let Juju walk. Insert whichever veteran linebacker can come in that has still room to grow, that can play alongside Devin Bush, Leighton Vander Esch, and insert whichever athletic quarterback is available out there for the most reasonable price to compete for a starting job and help teach a young guy. There we go, Mitchell Trubisky. Now, the last thing that I said that we have left to do here is we need to make sure we go in and look at cornerback. So somehow Devontae Adams still made it to wave 2. I don't know what's going on with that. Let's go ahead and look at corner. So part of what I'm looking at here is size. The Steelers need size at corner, which is going to eliminate some guys like Bryce Callahan that are like 5'9". I'm looking for somebody more in the Stephon Gilmore range of size. Like, I'm not going to sign Gilmore, but like 6 foot, 6'1", maybe 5'11", over 200 pounds. I would love to see Dante Jackson in a Steelers jersey. That's never going to happen. He's going to cost way too much money because of his athleticism. Travarius Ward has some bids on him. I'm looking for somebody that just doesn't have bids on them. Kyle Fuller would be an interesting ad. I still feel like Kyle Fuller is probably going to demand a lot of money. Didn't Xavier Rhodes retire? I mean, Xavier Rhodes is kind of like the zone type of a cornerback that the Steelers use. Trey Wayne, Steven Nelson could come back. Doubt that would happen. Sidney Jones is out here. I like Sidney Jones. If you guys see a name that you guys like, let me know in the chat. I thought Akello Witherspoon. Oh no, he tested the market because of whatever. 2 years, $4 million. We'll snipe him off of the Buffalo Bills. Bring him back. See, this is why they brought him in. 6'2", 195 pounds. Solid cornerback. It's only 7 per year. Yeah, let me know in the comment section if you guys see any corners you like here. I'm not loving them. We could bring back Kwan Williams or Kwan Williams, the Pitt product there. Eli Apple made his way to the Super Bowl with the Cincinnati Bengals. He's kind of got himself right. I think he was in trouble early in his career. Desmond Trufant, 30 years old. They do like to sign veteran players. Desmond Trufant? I don't know that 87 speed is true. Kevin King has some value. Trey Flowers, 6'3". Tackling. I wish I could sort in this stage of free agency by like stats, because I'd like to sort by like who can tackle, because that's what the Steelers need. They need a corner who can tackle, who can hit, who can shed a block. That's what I think they'd be looking for. We're kind of diving deep into the cornerback pool, but I really feel like some of these guys are a little bit more realistic for the Steelers, to be honest. Quentin Dunbar kind of looks like he just looks like he's going to come up and hit somebody. Patrick Peterson, I always wanted him in a Steelers jersey, but at this point in his career, probably not going to happen. Keon Crossan, Grant Haley. Check the comments, make sure you guys. Sidney Jones. Someone says Sidney Jones. I like that move. I got to get back up to him. We are bringing back Witherspoon. We're going to have to draft a corner, ultimately. Where is Sidney Jones? Did I skip past him? I mentioned Trey Waynes. Yeah, there he is, Sidney Jones. All right, so 277s. I wouldn't mind starting that on the outside, to be honest with you guys. And $4.5 million per year is not a lot of money to pay a cornerback in the NFL these days. I mean, honestly, like I might give both of these guys a little bit more money just to imagine that 6'2", 195-pound Akella Witherspoon, who played well at the end of the season on the outside, across from Sidney Jones the third. Wait, Ivy? That's 4. Yeah, I don't know why I had to think about that. I should know that right off the top of my head. 6 foot 181 pounds, 26, 27 years old, have quite a bit of career ahead of them. I like that. Pierre Desir, someone said he's 26. Let me go check him out real quick. Pierre Desir. I'm probably gonna go past him. There he is, Pierre Desir, 31 years old. Let's check out his skill set. Ooh, 69 tackling, good press, not very good coverage. A little slow for his age. I could see them signing a guy like that, though. Anybody else out here? I like, I think 2 guys. Signing more than 2 is going to be unrealistic. I really like this combo here. I feel like that actually has upside and room to grow. So Sidney Jones and Akella Witherspoon. And we can obviously see that Akella Witherspoon is not getting on the market what he might have hoped for. So that could be a realistic way to bring him back. You know what I mean? You bring him back on a contract that is pretty friendly to the organization. So I'm going to roll with that. I'm going to roll with those 2 cornerbacks. Yeah, way too slow. I agree. Let's go ahead. We'll just advance. We'll see if these guys get through. And I'm going to be honest with you, with how many players are slipping through here, there's probably going to be more players to choose from. We do get both of those guys. There's going to be more players to choose from come preseason free agency, private workouts. Okay, so here's what we're targeting in the draft. I already know everything about these quarterbacks. I'm not going to waste my... It's interesting that they have Howell at the top. I'm really not going to waste my my private workouts on them. Not going to really waste them on other things. A lot of people might utilize them on offense. I feel like I know quite a bit about the offensive line. What I don't know a lot about is the defensive linemen beyond the top guys. So we need defensive linemen. And what about corners? Ahmad Gardner. Some people have said that there's a chance that if he falls, the Steelers take Ahmad Gardner. Derek Stingley's out here. Castro Fields. I'm gonna spend my points on defensive ends and D linemen. Who's my quarterback one? My quarterback, my QB1 in the NFL draft, and I think a lot of people are going a little too crazy right now, is Kenny Pickett. I don't feel like Howell or Corral or Willis or Ritter did enough to make themselves like a top 15 pick. I feel like Kenny Pickett did enough to make himself a first-round quarterback. Now, he's, 24 years old, I think, so there's some downside to that. But he's the most NFL-ready guy. Now, in terms of what I'm going to do with this franchise, it really comes down to Kenny Pickett or Malik Willis, and whichever one's there at my pick, I'm not trading up. I don't think the Steelers should trade up. And if neither of them is there, then maybe it's Sam Howell, Matt Corral, or Desmond Ridder, to be honest with you. And I really don't feel like the upside of a Sam Howell or Corral or a Ridder or Carson Strong, I really don't feel like the upside of any of those guys is enough to make them a top 15 pick. I just really don't feel like this is the year of the quarterback, but I do feel like some teams could get a value quarterback in that 15 to 32 range, which is where the Pittsburgh Steelers at, or they're at pick 20. And then the other quarterback that I like a lot is Bailey Zappi, or Zapp. I don't know how to say his name. I've watched tape on him. He threw like 60-some touchdowns at Western Kentucky or something like that, a school that doesn't play a lot of other teams. Hey, if your quarterback doesn't fall to you in the first round, go take this guy with a third or a fourth round pick and have at it. Like, honestly, I think that he has, I mean, Ben Roethlisberger didn't play anybody when he was in college. He played for what? Cal something of Ohio, Miami of Ohio. So I thought it was California, Cal U or something like that. But no, Miami of Ohio. You don't have to play good competition to be a good quarterback. I think this guy's got upside. So that's a backup option that the Steelers have. Mac Jones is the best rookie QB of 2021. Changed my mind. Yeah, most of them played poorly. I think you're right. I didn't let Tuitt walk. I retired Tuitt, Tyler. I retired Tuitt just because we don't know what's happening with that situation, so I'm moving forward without Stephon Tuitt. So that's where we're at. Let me go find defensive linemen that actually like fit our scheme. Why is there no defensive lineman here on the board that fits our defensive scheme? What is every single defensive lineman a pass rusher? Like a finesse rusher? That can't be right. And there's no D tackles that fit our scheme? That doesn't sound right. Jordan Davis? We need like round 2 D linemen though. So 250 pounds, 275 out of Georgia, 275 pounds out of Georgia. That sounds about right. I'm honestly just going off of build. George Karlaftis probably not going to last. DeMarvin Leal, 291 pounds out of Texas A&M. I've heard his name mentioned a few times. Not loving these other options. Logan Hall potentially, but he's a little bit underweight for a 3-4 defensive end if you ask me. So we're going to go D tackle. And let's take a look at Devontae Wyatt. This is a guy that's out of Georgia, might fall to us in the second round. Probably not, but defensive line is where we need to go with our focus scouting. I'm going to go ahead and clean up the chat section real quick. Some spam comments going in. Make sure that nobody's spamming random crap. All right, back to it. So we got Witherspoon back, and we signed Sidney Jones. I think it's time for the draft. I think it's time. We're just going to go ahead and sim to draft. Whatever's left in preseason free agency, we'll take a look at to bolster the team. Yeah, like I said, I apologize if you do hear my overhead light or my fish tanks in the back. Am I drafting a quarterback? 100% yes, unless somehow the quarterbacks I like in the first round are all gone and Zapp is somehow gone in the third round. If all of those things happen, then no, I'm not drafting a quarterback. Those things are unlikely to happen. I am, I'd say 90% drafting a quarterback unless something crazy happens. So let's go ahead and get this party started. Start the draft. I'm going to go ahead for the first round, at the very least, go pick by pick, because I'm curious who teams pick. They got Evan Neal to the Jaguars. good pick. They need O-line. The Detroit Lions should take a quarterback. They're not going to. Nobody says they're going to. They're going to go defensive end. They're going to tank for another year and take a quarterback next year. That's fine. Aiden Hutchinson, solid pick. Houston Texans at 3. Kayvon Thibodeau. They need defensive playmakers. Very good pick. Kyle Hamilton, safety to the New York Jets. Bad pick. Don't draft a safety. Not worth it. They don't want to play there for you. They end up going elsewhere after 2-3 years. Bad pick. Good player. Wrong team. If he goes there, I feel sorry for him. Probably should go to another team. New York Jets. Ikem Ekwonu. Very good offensive lineman. They need that help. Solid pick. The Panthers select Charles Cross. They need tackle help. Good pick. I'm glad to see that they have this program to take good players. Derek Stingley to the Giants. That would be disgusting. Good pick. They could use the secondary help. They need help on defense in general. They need help elsewhere, but Derek Stingley's too good of a player to pass on with the 7th pick, to be honest with you. George Karlaftis, another defensive end, off the board to the Falcons. I don't love that pick. They need other players. I'm going to be honest with you. Picking at pick 8, the Falcons should select a quarterback to replace Matt Ryan. They're not going to. They go Karlaftis, getting a solid player, but not necessarily their biggest need either. The Denver Broncos get wide receiver Garrett Wilson, just adding yet another receiver to their team. I don't think that makes a ton of sense. Some teams have them taking a quarterback. I don't think that's going to happen. But there's other players that they could utilize more than Garrett Wilson. The New York Jets select cornerback Ahmad Gardner, Sauce Gardner. Solid pick. They need cornerbacks pretty bad. And I apologize, my contact rolled behind my eye. Should be good to go now. Let me check the comment section real quick. George always goes to the Falcons. Okay, that's not bad. Washington Commanders? Is that what they're called now? Jermaine Johnson II, defensive end. That's a horrible pick. Unless they're going to decide to let Montez Sweat and... why am I drawing a blank on his name? The other defensive end, and then their 3 amazing defensive tackles. Unless they're going to let those guys all walk, they don't need another defensive lineman. That's a terrible pick. Drake London to the Vikings. Adam Thielen's getting up there in age. I could see a receiver going here. They have positions of greater need, but I don't mind that pick. Nakobe Dean, middle linebacker to the Browns. What do the Browns need? I don't know. There's been talks that Baker Mayfield leaves that team. Maybe they take a quarterback. Probably not. There's other positions that they could utilize. Middle linebacker, probably not a bad pick for them. Baltimore Ravens get a cornerback. I think they have too many cornerbacks. They probably need to go edge rusher, but a lot of those edge rushers already went. Andrew Booth Jr., I don't know a lot about the guy, so I'm not going to say good or bad pick there. They always add to their defense, and they're always solid, so can't really complain. Defensive end to the Philadelphia Eagles. Yeah, their D-line's getting up there in age. I could see that pick. I think this is probably a reach, though, because I haven't heard that guy talked about in being drafted this high. And then they take cornerback Trent McDuffie. Yeah, Darius Slay getting up there in age. He'll develop into a solid cornerback. Solid pick. I feel like the Eagles need help elsewhere. To go 2 defensive players in a row, I don't know about that. Treylon Burks, wide receiver to the Chargers. Well, yeah, I don't know. Give or take on that one. Kenny Pickett goes to the Saints. They've made our decision for us as long as the Philadelphia Eagles don't take a quarterback. I love that pick. The Saints need their future quarterback. Kenny Pickett needs to go to a good organization. If Kenny Pickett is drafted within the top 10 to 15 picks, I've been saying his career's over. If he goes anywhere Saints and lower, and he's the guy, and he'll have a successful career. That pick is actually amazing for the Saints, if you ask me. Then we go quarterback. This is an obvious pick. Malik Willis. Now, I feel like a lot of people are going to complain about that. They don't like some of how much he got sacked and the turnovers, and he's a first-read quarterback. I get all the criticism. But if Mike Tomlin's really as great as you say he is, all of you guys out there that don't want Mike Tomlin to be fired. I'm not one of them. If you're one of those people that doesn't want Mike Tomlin to be fired and you believe he's as great of a coach as he is, I don't see why he can't take Malik Willis and turn him into a great quarterback. This is the true test of whether Mike Tomlin should continue to be the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers or not. Malik Willis has the best athleticism out of the draft. I love the idea of just taking whatever quarterback falls to you at that position. I could have seen it being one of the other ones, but they have to have mobility. And I'm not going to be upset if they get a mobile quarterback. Wide receiver went to whatever team was immediately after us. Can't really comment on that pick. Center going to the Raiders. The Raiders do need offensive line help. I don't mind that at all. Solid pick there. Linderbaum going that far down is a surprise to me. Jordan Davis, defensive tackle, goes to the Cardinals. They do have an aging defensive line, and they could use a prolific disruptor on that unit. Left guard Kenyon Green, solid pickup for the Cowboys. They do need to start replacing some older offensive linemen. Jamison Williams, wide receiver to the Buffalo Bills. If he lasts that long and goes to the Buffalo Bills, that offense just got even scarier. The Tennessee Titans select Kaiir Elam, cornerback out of Florida. Decent pick. I'm going to go ahead and check your comments now that my chat's probably caught up. Browns need wide receiver bad and interior defensive line. Yeah. Trayvon Walker, right end to the Buccaneers. They should probably be taking a quarterback with that pick to replace Tom Brady, not going to lie. The Packers, we don't know what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. They take a defensive end. I think they need offensive line, honestly. I could be wrong. They're going to need a receiver to replace Devontae Adams if all of what we expect to come true comes true. The Miami Dolphins select a halfback in the first round. There goes our first somewhat pretty unrealistic pick, probably. They do kind of need a running back. I don't like the crew that they have. I don't see them taking one in the first round. The Kansas City Chiefs select defensive tackle Devontae Wyatt. There goes our D tackle that we wanted. Yeah, huge pickup for them. They have to add to their defense through the draft because of their cap situation. The Detroit Lions with pick 31. Did I not just advance to next pick? Oh, yeah. Apparently, I just skipped two. I didn't see who that pick was. So with the final pick in the first round, the Cincinnati Bengals select an offensive tackle out of Central Michigan. Solid pick. They need another offensive lineman. Now we're going to go advancing to next user. Interesting how it's slowed down there. There goes Logan Hall. Wait, didn't Logan Hall get drafted earlier? Were there two Logan Halls in this draft class? Am I wrong? This is where we got to go O-line or D-line. O-line or D-line. Honestly, probably just going to select the highest projected players. So these guys are all round 2 through 3. Round 2 through 3. Oh, man. Not a lot to pick from here. This is going to be a tough decision. I may need to pause just to make this decision since I haven't scouted any of these guys. 255, 265, 287. Can't take guys that are edge rushers with this pick. We could take an interior defensive lineman, but those are round 3 talent. Sean Ryan, let's take a look at his physicals. 21 years old, that's a major plus. Good, solid jumping, solid strength. 31 bench press reps is actually pretty good, though. B awareness, A impact block, B run block power. That's what you want out of your right tackle. Sean Ryan looks like a solid player. I just want to compare real quick against Abram Lucas. 22 years old, 6'6", great in a couple of categories. C pass block. Let's go ahead with Sean Ryan. 86 strength. 21 years old, a buildable player. Advance to next user pick. Make your selection. All right, again, offensive line and Rasheed Walker is there out of Penn State. That would be crazy. I don't see him getting this far. Braxton Jones, left end, right end, Zachary Carter. We're getting to that territory where it might make sense to draft one of those guys. Let me take a look at this dude's skill set. 22 years old, 31 reps on the bench press, marginal in some of those categories. C finesse move, which means he's probably got solid power move. This is where we want to take a look at Reid Walker, 22 years old as well, 30 reps on the bench press, good in every category. I like Reid Walker here. Get us 2 solid offensive linemen, then we can worry about defensive line later on. 86 strength for him as well. That's pretty good acceleration for a lineman and pretty good speed and agility. So he may be able to bump to guard. Skip to next user pick. We don't have a pick in the 4th round, and our next pick is in the 6th round. So we did not do enough to address our defensive line outside of drafting. We drafted, what's his name? Signed Harrison Phillips. 270 pounds. Those guys are day 3 options, 259 pounds. Day 3 options at D tackle. Neil Farrell, John Ridgway. Compare their skill sets. 22 years old, 33 reps on the bench press, had a really good 40-yard dash. That's actually a really good combination of athleticism right there. 22 years old for him, not as fast, stronger potentially. Actually, solid. Let me go look at John Ridgway again. This might be a steal. Look at all those skills that he has. Not good finesse move, decent, or not decent, but not too bad block shedding. A impact block, which does affect D tackles. Looks for a massive hit, uses spin move, uses bull rush move, motor's running hot. I like this. 86 strength, 70 speed. Looks like a prototypical defensive lineman, probably D end in our system. All right, what's next? There were a couple of names that were on the board here that kind of surprised me. I'm wondering if they're still here. Yeah, there's some of these wide receivers that are still here that would probably be solid finds for the Steelers in the later rounds. Cornerback, some of those guys went. We're not going to draft corner just yet. I don't think. This is probably where we take our hidden gem receiver that the Steelers like to go for. Jakari Robertson, Charleston Rambo, Danny Gray. These guys got to be from like a small school. Coastal Carolina. 22 years old, 4.42 time. Going to be fast. I mean, any one of these guys, probably. Let me look at Rambo real quick. That was the last one I wanted to look at. He's 23 years old, and his 40 time's not as good. Javon Hiley looked the best to me. And I've heard some positive talk about this guy. Hidden dev in the 7th round. Javon Hiley, 92 speed, 92 acceleration, 86 jumping. Looks like a pretty solid wide receiver. Pretty solid wide receiver find. Pretty typical for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do we have an extra 7th round pick? Yeah, we do. Okay, so with this extra 7th round pick, I think we finally need to go cornerback probably, if there's even one left. I don't love either of these guys. Is there a safety left? No. Linebacker? No. Defensive lineman? No. Zap went. So cornerback it is. There are still two day 3 guys left. 4.42 speed. Can't tackle. Good block shedding. That's interesting. Washington State, Texas. Kind of sounds like a Pittsburgh Steelers type of guy. Let's go with Jalen Watson out of Washington State. All right. That's going to be our draft here, unless they have another 7th-round pick that I don't know about. Let's go ahead and get out of here and review what those players' overalls are. Not that it matters too much, but I think that we did what we needed to do to fill these positions, because obviously you're not going to know a player's overall in real life. So Malik Willis comes in at a 70 overall, pretty low for a first-round pick, but he does have hidden development. That's what I would expect out of Malik Willis, to be honest with you guys. 22-year-old quarterback, 88 speed, really athletic guy, and he has pretty solid arm strength. I don't know what they gave him here. 93 throw power. That's what you need to build on for an NFL quarterback, and I really feel like if Mike Tomlin's as great as everybody says he is, he'll be able to do it. The right tackle with normal comes in at a 68 overall. Pretty solid run blocker, not a great pass blocker. He's athletic as well, so he could potentially go to guard. Rasheed Walker should probably be better than a 64, but we do address with 2 offensive linemen. Both of them have decent enough athleticism. One of them could go to guard here, and one of them could play tackle and develop. We add John Ridgway, who I liked at defensive tackle. He only comes in at a 64 overall, so this must have been a pretty adjusted downwards type of a draft class. Comes in with decent power moves, pretty good strength. Honestly, looks like a Pittsburgh Steelers type of a defensive lineman. Javon Hiley, we get our hidden dev receiver in the later rounds. 6 foot, 92 speed, looks really athletic. And then we do draft a cornerback here in the later rounds. So let's go ahead and advance one more week. Actually, I think I'm pretty happy with the roster as it is. So let's go ahead and view our roster and see where we stand at the end of things here. All right. So at quarterback, we're going to have Malik Willis competing for a starting job with Mitchell Trubisky, the veteran, who has athleticism, and then the established Pittsburgh Steelers quarterbacks. I don't want to say established, but what's the word I'm looking for? Pre-existing Steelers quarterbacks in Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph. Mason Rudolph probably loses that battle and is released. I would say Malik Willis and Mitchell Trubisky have a good chance of making that roster. We then have our halfbacks that we maintain in Najee Harris, Benny Snell, Kalen Ballage. Kalen Ballage probably going to get an uptick in reps and take a lot of those reps away from Benny Snell. And I see Harris and Ballage splitting reps there. Let me go ahead and move myself back down to the bottom corner. We have Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and then again, insert whichever receiver you want to insert here to the 3rd wide receiver spot. And it just happened to be DJ Chark for us with our young Javon Hiley, who is going to have a probably return job, punt return, kick return, maybe develop into their next great wide receiver. I have a feeling that they will draft one and they'll find somebody that's going to have high upside. Starting tight ends, Pat Freiermuth and Zach Gentry, both players that have worked on their blocking game and have shown a significant upside in the receiving game. Feel very confident about that. At left tackle, we'll have a competition, but here's what I'm going to do. So right tackle, Morgan Moses is going to start there. And I say Sean Ryan probably goes to left tackle, and they build him up to try to be the cornerstone at left tackle because of how good he looks like he could be. Again, insert any offensive lineman that could be solid. Rasheed Walker here is going to go to right guard. He's going to learn for a year or two and, probably be flexed into the lineup due to injury and stuff like that. So he'll be the right guard. And your offensive line in a couple years or next year or 2 years is going to be Sean Ryan at left tackle with Dan Moore Jr. backing up at the offensive line, across the offensive line. They like to flex guys around. Kevin Dotson at left guard, Kendrick Green at center. You'll have Rasheed Walker or insert other rookie offensive lineman who will develop as their right guard. Right now it's Brian Winters, the veteran. Now, right now we got right tackle Morgan Moses, and then they will have to try to find somebody to take over at that right tackle spot. But for right now, we have it locked up with a veteran. On the defensive line, we have Chris Wormley and Cam Hayward, but they're going to be backed up by John Ridgway, who's going to move to defensive end and take over at one of those positions. I like that pick a lot, actually. Looks like a very Very good, very sizable, and also somewhat athletic 3-4 type of interior defensive lineman. Harrison Phillips was our big free agency signing to help establish that interior defensive line once again. I like that one quite a bit. We also bring in Leighton Vander Esch to play alongside of Devin Bush. This could be any other really solid linebacker that's out there in free agency that's in that 24 to 26 years old range. Again, like I said, the Steelers show the tendency to try to go after that type of a linebacker, and they will pay money for that type of a linebacker. So we went and got Leighton Vander Esch, but it could be a couple of other names if they hit free agency. I don't think Leighton Vander Esch is actually going to hit free agency. But we do need to find somebody else to play alongside Devin Bush. We have Alex Highsmith at the other outside linebacker spot. We kept around Taco Charlton to back those guys up. We brought in Sidney Jones to play alongside Akella Witherspoon and Cam Sutton, and we actually have a pretty solid trio there at cornerback with the potential of a guy like Justin Lane to continue to develop, or maybe a James Pierre, or even a rookie that we brought in the late 7th round in Jalen Watson. But I actually am not too unhappy with that. I actually like that quite a bit. Serviceable guys that you know what you're going to get out of them, as opposed to what they tried to do last year, which was just strut out whatever able body they could that was off somebody else's practice squad. At free safety, we have Minka Fitzpatrick, Trey Norwood, and Donovan Steiner backing him up. Jabril Peppers comes in to play as a flexible player for our defense. He could play safety. This is probably the most unrealistic move that we did. I don't see them actually getting him, but if they have the opportunity to, they absolutely need to. Jabril Peppers can play safety. He can play corner. He can play linebacker. He can play edge rusher. You bring this guy in and you play him all over the field on any down. You find a spot for him, you put him on the field, and he finds way to make plays. That takes some pressure off of Terrell Edmonds, who can just maintain his box safety role and can develop some of his coverage skills, and I like keeping him around. Carl Joseph is also here. I don't know if that's just because he was on the practice squad, if the Steelers would even keep him. And then we also have Presley Harvin and Chris Boswell, and then Stephon Tuitt, who we obviously retired because we don't know what's going to happen with him. Now, don't get me wrong. I would love to see Stephon Tuitt back as a Pittsburgh Steeler. I'd love to see him back and healthy and dominating for the Steelers again. I just don't know what's going to come of his current situation, and it seems probably like he's not going to play another game in a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey. So that, in my opinion, is how you fix the Pittsburgh Steelers. You transition to a run-first offense. You allow a quarterback to develop behind that run-first offense. You bring in some athleticism at that quarterback position, and you have to establish future players across the offensive and defensive line, something that they have failed to do now for a while. It has to happen through the draft, and they probably also have to supplant that with some veteran signings that are solid, that can hold over at positions right now while those other players learn the system and develop. So Malik Willis and Mitchell Trubisky were my picks. There could be other players. Maybe Kenny Pickett's the guy. Maybe it's Coral. Maybe it's one of the other guys. And maybe this Mitchell Trubisky is Jacoby Brissett, or maybe it's Marcus Mariota. It could be any veteran guy, but I think they need to bring somebody out, and they probably should have this 4-quarterback battle with one of these guys getting cut by the regular season, probably Mason Rudolph. And I really think that's pretty much what we need to do with this team. One of the biggest things is getting guys in on the defensive line that are going to be your future, and I think that we did a good job of that with John Ridgeway. He really looks like a player that I would be able to progress in Madden and in real life would be able to progress. And then we got Harrison Phillips, who, again, like I said, super underused for the Buffalo Bills, but could be a superstar defensive lineman if actually used properly. He's got so much upside. I absolutely love this guy as a defensive lineman, and he's a true Pittsburgh Steelers type of a guy. I would love to see him in that Pittsburgh Steelers jersey. And then we worked on getting somebody to go alongside our linebacker and worked on our cornerback and secondary depth. That's what we need to do to fix the Pittsburgh Steelers. And this is going to finish off the Pittsburgh Steelers franchise here for right now on the channel as well, because this is what I wanted to come back and say, this is what we should have done this season. This is what the Pittsburgh Steelers should do going forward within the next couple of months in order to get this team to where they need to be. So let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Somebody said right there, why not trade for Jimmy G? Jimmy G is off the table for me. I discussed this earlier in this video. An expensive quarterback option is off the table. Unless you're trading for Jimmy G and they are somehow keeping most of that contract, your quarterback option has to be inexpensive. If you sign a free agent or trade for a player, you cannot have that player take up the majority of that cap space that you have remaining as a team. You have too many holes and too many potential needs as a team coming in with, you don't know what's going on with Stephon Tuitt. You don't know what's going on with your offensive line. You don't know what's going on with your wide receivers. You don't know what's going on with your secondary. You have holes to fill, and you need money to do that, and you're not going to be able to do it all through the draft with the draft picks that you have. So you can't bring in a quarterback that's going to be expensive for your team. So that means you have to stay at pick 20 and take what comes to you. You can't draft up and have a more expensive quarterback, you can't trade up and have a more expensive draft pick. And on top of that, you can't sign or trade for an expensive quarterback. It just shouldn't happen. It can't happen. If they do it, that means you're going all in and you're trying to win a Super Bowl, but I just don't see that as the realistic situation for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's why I don't trade for Jimmy G. I don't trade for Aaron Rodgers. I don't trade for Russell Wilson. I don't trade for anybody. I go out and sign an inexpensive athletic quarterback that has upside, that was basically let down by their organization in Mitch Trubisky. Could be Marcus Mariota, could be Jacoby Brissett, but I like Mitch Trubisky out of all those guys. I still think that he could be a good quarterback in the NFL, and he was just with a bad team, and he's now had time to learn from a player that has a very similar skill set in Josh Allen. So I really, really like the upside that Mitchell Trubisky could bring to the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that's where I'm at with where the Pittsburgh Steelers need to go and with what I've done with their roster. Hopefully you guys enjoyed seeing this video and enjoyed this type of a stream. Please leave a like, please subscribe to the channel if you're new, and please leave a comment in the comment section what you guys thought, what you guys would do differently, what you guys want to see from the Pittsburgh Steelers. But that's where I'm at with it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. As always, I'll see you guys in the next one, and I hope you guys have a good one.